Good morning, everybody. Excuse me, I live in Kentucky, so there go the allergies right away. Before I begin with introductions, I want to begin by honoring the land on which we stand and benefit from. While land acknowledgements may not repair harm done to Indigenous communities, it is a way to own the painful truth of our history as well as honor Indigenous communities. You're encouraged to identify and commit to honoring the land on which you stand if you are not here in Louisville, Kentucky. In the spirit of supporting and fostering learning through the generation and sharing of knowledge, we would like to acknowledge the land we are meeting on today is in fact the original homeland of the Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, and Osage tribal nations. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this territory, and we honor and respect the many diverse Indigenous peoples still connected to this land on which we gather. Thank you. Welcome to the 16th Annual Kentucky Women's Book Festival. My name is Marian Vassar, and I am the Executive Director for Diversity and Equity, also the Director of Diversity Education, and also the current Interim Director of the Women's Center. That's a whole book, entire book right there by itself. The Kentucky Women's Book Festival is a cultivated, shared space for Kentucky women writers and community to exchange literary ideas and brilliance. While this festival has historically been held in person, the devastating pandemic actually expanded our options, allowing more accessible programming. As a result of virtual options, we have people joining us from across the country. So wherever you're from, we are thrilled to have you. So let us know where you're logging in from by dropping your location in the chat. We love to know who all is in the space with us. So I'm going to get out of your way shortly, but I want to share a few community norms that are designed to ensure we have an engaging and smooth process and program for all. So everybody's mics and cameras are disabled right now. We know with this many people in the virtual space, anything could happen. So those are disabled now. Please make sure throughout the session that you show some love for our speakers. You can do this by putting comments in the chat and also using emoji reactions. So we strongly encourage you to do that throughout the program. We want you to actively engage. So please, again, use the chat for any questions, comments, or reactions throughout the program. There will be a Q&A at the end where you will have a chance to ask questions, so you can type those in the chat. This will also include questions that were already submitted during registration. So when you register, some of you had already sent those questions in, but drop those in the chat and we'll monitor those and make sure they're included during the Q&A portion. We will ask at the end for everyone to turn on their cameras. We're going to do a group photo. So whatever you need to do to prepare yourself for that big reveal, you can do that now or throughout the program. We'll just ask you to turn on those cameras. We'll try to take a quick photo. So if you would, just please be patient with us through that process. Today's festival is brought to you by the Women's Center with sponsorship from the Commission on the Status of Women. I also want to thank our amazing planning committee for working to make this year's festival happen. It's been a pleasure working with this team. Our co-chairs are Phyllis Webb and Robin Harris. Also serving, we have Jamaica Jones, Amy Purcell, Letitia Reynolds, Patsy Russell, Peggy Grimes, Miranda Massman, and Marian Vassar. The Kentucky Women's Book Festival began in 2006 and was the dream of the late Corita Jones, who is also a Louisville author, playwright, and historian. In the early 2000s, Rita brought together colleagues and friends, as well as authors from the writing group she founded in the early 1990s. That group was Women Who Write. The Women's Center embraced Rita's dream and made a commitment to continue supporting the book festival. While Rita Jones transitioned in May of 2020, her spirit and vision continue to inspire and inform the direction of this festival. We would also like to honor another shero who played a critical role as she was one of our first featured authors. And that first festival was actually held at Spalding University. That is Bell Hooks, who also transitioned in 2021. Can we please hold a few moments of silence to honor both of these amazing women authors? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to one of my favorite amazing colleagues, Dr. Karen Chandler, who is also from the University of Louisville English Department, and she'll introduce our keynote speaker for the day. So I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Chandler.
Thank you very much. It's with great pleasure that I introduce Joy Priest, a Louisville native whose poetry is acclaimed for its insights into the beauty and difficulty of growing up Black and Southern. Ms. Priest is a PhD student of the University of Houston's prestigious Literature and Creative Writing program. She obtained her bachelor's degree from the University of Kentucky and went on to get her master's of fine arts at the University of South Carolina, where she also earned a graduate certificate in women's and gender studies. A member of the vital community of Appalachian artists, Ms. Priest is known for her keen attention to the possibilities of language and poetic form and her deep sounding of ideas about identity, gender, family, community, and history. Her work has led to an impressive array of awards, but in the interest of brevity, I'll mention only a few. She won the Stanley Kunitz Memorial Prize, a yearly award that goes to a poet under the age of 40 for a single poem. Ms. Priest's award-winning poem was A Personal History of Breathing. Her book, Horsepower, won the prestigious Donald Hall Prize for Poetry, which is given annually to a book-length manuscript of poems written in English. Horsepower was selected by Emerita U.S. Poet Laureate Natasha Trethewey. Ms. Priest is also a 2021 recipient of a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship for Creative Writing. In addition to her book, Horsepower, she's contributed to many respected literary journals and to anthologies such as Home is Where You Queer Your Heart, Patrice Lumumba, an anthology of writers on Black liberation, and Black Bone, 25 Years of the Appalachian Poets. Her poems have been featured in 3 annual Best New Poets collections. Her outstanding contributions through her poetry and essays, which I haven't really mentioned, and her many community commitments are inspiring models of what an artist can do. Please join me in welcoming Joy Priest.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Karen, for that introduction. I also want to thank Phyllis, Jamaica, Robin, Letitia, Amy, Marian, and if anyone else I left out, thank you so much for inviting me to be something like a keynote for this conference. It's the ultimate honor to be asked to fill such a role in your hometown, in your city, and especially for women, for the Kentucky Women's Book Festival, for the U of L Women's Center. It's the ultimate honor to speak to women from my city, where I'm from, and the particular concerns and issues we have. I prepared something like a medley today. I'm going to read from Horsepower, but I'm also going to read from some excerpts from an essay, A Measure of Belonging, 21 Writers of Color on the New American South. It's a book that came out in 2020, an anthology. Other Louisville woman writer is in here as well. Minda Honey has a beautiful essay, so I highly recommend this essay collection. I'm going to start out with the title poem of Horsepower, and then I'll just sort of read with like some poems, excerpts from the essay. Hopefully I don't go over my time. All right. I'm assuming everyone can see and hear me. I don't know if I've done a reading on Teams yet. So all I see is people's names with their cameras off. All right, horsepower. If someone could say they can see me in the chat, it would give me peace of mind. All right,
we can see you.
Thank you so much. Horsepower. Off season, before the racetrack opens, I jump through the threshold of my back door, stable side. A dove takes off from its nest tucked into the corner of the porch awning, glides through my world, which I can see in its entirety from my top step. The twin steeples and emerald roofs just past our garage. A horse practicing its start out of the gate. Only Longfield, that avenue rounding the perimeter of the pill-shaped track where the red and white and green flags ripple from balconies and my neighbors sell horchata in styrofoam cups, street tacos, and paper baskets with cilantro and lime. Only Longfield and a chain link fence separates the horse's air from mine. They work the loop of that circular mile, making everyone's living except their own, the motors of our economy. Beyond the spires is a larger world I do not know exists. A mile west in my line of vision is a family I do not know I have. In that corner of the city, separating from the land like a cell in mitosis, straining across the Ohio River to the north, my great aunt, Black matriarch, rocks on her blue porch, and my father, just a couple of blocks away from her, coos my baby brother into sleep while his new wife flowers the wings of a flightless bird. But all I know for now is my grandfather, the white one. And I know my mother, who I can hear now roaring home from work in her muscle car. And wait, I know the horses and their restless minds. I grew up on Dresden and Cliff, which is off of Longfield Avenue on the backside of the racetrack. So, you know, that's one aspect of the title, but there are, you know, the hope is that the title has many resonances. Aside from horses, I mean, you know, growing up, it's like I woke up to the smell of horses, the sound of horses whinnying. So there's no way to avoid them in my writing. But horsepower is also about working class themes, measures of energy for machines and motors, and also a sort of mental fortitude. American Honey. This poem is a sestina, so you can hear 6 words repeating over and over again: leaving, own, stars, dread, black girl. It's easier than you thought, leaving. Only one night spent sleeping on your own in a motel parking lot beneath the stars of a summer Okolona. Your long-built dread dispersing like gas into a brilliantly black Appalachian sky, for once you are a girl, unmolested. You could do this, be a girl, without a home, always gone, always leaving behind strip mall USA and the dark green dumpster you raid for food, something to own. And the 2 kids no one cares for, the dread that comes on when their father grips you, sparkle, let your freedom build slow like the death of a star across the years. And when she calls for you, granddaughter of Elvis, Confederate flag bikini, voice you dread, let the interstate's roar swallow her sound. And you're leaving, you see your country for the first time, your very own seeing. When he howls for you, your body is a silent black barn hidden in wild grass, and your locks, pastoral black, are ropes for him swaying from its rafters. Dangling star. It's easier than you imagine, leaving behind your own mother, her daughter, her ghost. Now you can be a girl on the back patio with 3 white men, and you can leave with their money, egg suede cowboy hat adorning your dreads. You've swallowed the mezcal worm of your fear. Now you're standing in the cowboy's convertible, black wind at the edge of the camera's frame. You're leaving with the getaway boy you found sparking in a Kmart parking lot. You're keeping it alive, your girlhood, the adrenaline, the novelty, the dying star you own a million miles away. You're learning how to own yourself, how to be 14 deep in a 12-seater without dread, how to disarm, how to let it go when the white girl from Florida says nigga again, how to be the only black girl among strangers, dancing around a bonfire under the stars, singing out of the sunroof down the interstate, leaving each new town you meet and own a memory in, leaving behind your mother's dread vein eyes, fuseless stars. Learn it all, girl, until what you've left behind is a brilliant black. The poem that ends the first section in the book, I wrote originally as a private elegy for my great aunt, Mary Louise Robinson, who we call Ma. Her house still stands on 28th Street, where my cousin lives in it now, but she passed on in 2015. Dear Aunt Louise, Ma. And it was the summer right before I left Kentucky for the first time to go to Newark, New Jersey. Dear Aunt Louise, Ma. I am thinking of your blue painted porch on 28th Street, tucked between Catawba and Olive, where I sat with my daddy when I was getting to know him. Your underbite and chin whiskers, that very distinct quiet one only gets being from a place miles deep into the crop. How you took everything in through a tinted filter, lived at the end of the red dirt road in your laugh. Your obituary in the black puddle of my lap. 1955, left Negro Church Road, Lawrence County, Alabama, went north on the train. Sister went all the way to Cleveland and took up with a boy y'all grew up down the road from, Dennis Priest, Steel Rail to Steel Mills. You got off before the Ohio, settled into a loan, and lived on a numbered street like a city girl. The obituary, elusive archive. Father's name, Racia, gone. Mother's name, Mary Helen, dead, 1936. By the time you were 3 years old, you were a girl alone. A month beyond your homegoing, headed north 13 hours in a pickup truck. Before I left that morning, I plucked a chin hair, sprouted overnight, felt the heel of your palm hit my shoulder like a tambourine. I'm gonna move to the essay. It's an essay called I Feel Most Southern in the Hip Hop of My Adolescence, on Black Southern mobility, interregionality, and internalized misogyny. And it's a song about music. It's a song about the early aughts, 2000 to 2007, when I was a teenager, roaring around Louisville in my own muscle car. And it's about hip hop, Southern hip hop in the early aughts. My Southernness was seeded by the matriarchs on my father's side, Black women who came up from Alabama sharecropping fields in the 20th century to do day work. The language, a euphemism for taking care of white families, a pentimento of the plantation schedule. In my own lifetime, I found affirmation of my Southern identity in the music of my adolescence, where I spent a lot of time in cars. In the aughts, Kentucky didn't have a definitive sound on mainstream radio, but Black Kentuckians heard our experiences in Southern hip hop no matter which state it came out of. Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Virginia. We didn't feel Southern because we were listening to Southern rap. We felt Southern rap because the tempo matched the cadence of our lives and kept a record of the peripheral cultures that shaped our language and movement. There's also a little like defensiveness in this essay sometimes about, Kentucky not being a part of the South. I get highly offended by that assertion. 1999, Back That Ass Up, Juvenile featuring Manny Fresh and Lil Wayne. I Need a Hot Girl, Hot Boys, New Orleans. Each section has a little track listing like that with the song, the most popular songs that year and the places in the South they came out of. The seminal intra-regional anthem for the Black South came down at the end of the 20th century. There wasn't a party Back That Ass Up failed to play at up through my exit from high school in 2007. A hood cult classic like Mr. Big's Trial Time. To know every single word, affect, ad-lib was a mark of belonging. It was at a grown folks' house party. It was at a school dance, a family reunion barbecue. It was at the car wash, corner store, Sundays at Cox Park. From a car radio, sound distorted as it passed from right ear to left, or a chance snippet at the stoplight. On Broadway after school, where the old school swerved like one slow-moving, shimmering river, mimicking the Ohio running parallel 9 blocks away. It was on 106 in Park, BET Uncut, Video Countdown, Cedar's World, Hits from the Streets, Rap City. It was practicing in front of the mirror. It was when we still called it poppin'. In pantsuits, capris, sundresses, airbrush t-shirts or spaghetti straps, basketball and booty shorts, hair store flip-flops or fresh white forces, gold nameplates and jumbo hoop earrings airborne in the slow motion music of our millennial turn. It was at the FYE music store on Dixie Highway. Our city twinned with New Orleans by the Fleur-de-Lis. It was in a bin that held piles of compact disc, a medium so delicate and ephemeral, we kept cotton pads and light abrasive polishing solutions in the medicine cabinet. In one bin, the CD covers featured the late 90s Cash Money Records DIY graphics, diamond-encrusted block letters, old schools, and cash raining down to Dow's flames circling Lil Wayne or Juvenile or BG or Turk. The flames were always the most prominent feature. The rapper was depicted in the underworld. It was easy to internalize the evil and immorality projected onto us by residents from the good side of town. In the ghetto as purgatory, necessary a wellspring of creativity. We invented strategies to get by, made a way out of no way. The alchemical rapper demonstrated his 3-pronged strategy for keeping the heat under control: money, mobility, ice. It wasn't just the cover designs that held fire, but the titles too. The block is hot, 400 degrees. I need a hot girl, sang the Hot Boys. The heat was everywhere in the Black enclaves of the lower United States. Kitchen fires and hood summers, blocks saturated with police, a specific kind of girl who usually didn't get the gift of serenade. So when Manny Fresh sung his ode to hood rats, we celebrated this newfound exclusivity by blessing someone who shared our claustrophobic swelter with a dance. In the city. Rear-wheel drive, cutting corners, rims rubbing through the city. Fishtail swinging, switching lanes, floating tub in the city. M4 extended barrel peeks out from beneath the sea shit. Gotta stay above the mud in the city. Spit road blunt sit cooling, and the swivel of air vent there for when it starts, the tug of the city. Palm the finger waves, her face hidden in the sex of my lap. This, how a king fall in love in the city. Family air at age 12 when pops went to the grave, couldn't find my heart if they dug up the city. Mother shoot brown sugar into the rupture of vein. I live like this through the blood of the city. Not quite a fiend. Sprinkle a little bag to do a few bumps just because in the city. Redbone rhythm, her first time breaths, only sound that ever drowned out the buzz of the city. Now the joy of her moan lived ringing, our waist in LaGrange, forever reminiscing how it was in the city. 2000, Stankonia, Outcasts, Danger, Mystical, produced by the Neptunes, Atlanta, New Orleans, Virginia Beach. In Old Louisville, a well-preserved historic district downtown, populated exclusively by Victorian houses, 9th Street branches off from 7th Street like an empty aqueduct. From there, it begins its journey northwest toward the West End. Somebody said the West End, the best end. By the time 9th Street makes it to Broadway, the city's major downtown thoroughfare, it has become a border with enough narrative resonance in our city to have earned a nickname, the Berlin Wall. Called such because it separates the West End economically, politically, visually, and cyclically, the 9th Street divide is a common phrase uttered to tourists by downtown bartenders as a boundary not to venture beyond. Historically, it served as a divide between urban renewal projects and the business district. Currently, it corrals Black Louisvillians within 30 or so blocks, effectively cut off from the rest of the city. Its sit-down restaurants and hospitals, movie theaters and stores. 30% of West End residents do not own a car, but the bus route will eventually get you to work on the other side of town. And on foot, you can get to church or the liquor store, depending on what kind of spirit you're trying to catch, fire in your belly or fire in your head. In the first year of the new century, your slightly older teenage uncle has a 1983 Z28 Camaro T-top. It's a bucket, but you want the same car when you get older. There's a detaching face CD player and some rattle in the trunk, but the power windows won't come down, and it's burning up in the early morning heat wave. At every pothole or railroad track, the radio cuts out. There's a short in the wiring, but his guy says it's not worth the cost to fix it. So he resorts to the usual, banging on the dashboard until it cuts back in. 2001, Raise Up, P.D. Pablo, produced by Timberland, Greenville, Norfolk. 2002, Watermelon Chicken and Grits, Nappy Roots, Chopper Style Chopper, Bowling Green, New Orleans. I might offend somebody in this section, but I'm just keeping it real, okay? At the end of the week, we started in early. At the end of every week, we started in early with pleas to convince our parents to let us go to Saturday skate at Champs Roller Rink, located on the ominously curvy Man Slick Road, where the working class white and Black sides of town converged. It was each time a difficult convincing, considering the night always ended prematurely with a fist fight or a skate opening someone's scalp. But somehow we managed to arrive under the glow-in-the-dark purple lights with money in hand for speed skates and surge soda. There was always a favorite cut that got everyone to the floor when the rink reached capacity and speed skates became pointless inside the slow-turning mass. P.D. Pablo was talking about a place none of us had thought about before, but when Rep Yo City refrained from the rink speakers and that gravel crunch voice that held the church and the liquor store, we raised up. Maybe North Carolina hated this song. Maybe the big city Black folks in Charlotte were embarrassed by that country shit. The same way big city Black folks in Louisville were embarrassed by the first mainstream Kentucky rap group that would debut the next year with Watermelon Chicken and Grits, a corny misrepresentation too public to defend. When they sang about their newfound contentment with lifelong poverty in an overpronounced twang, we weren't trying to hear that. Being poor definitely still mattered to us, and the struggle wasn't something we were in a place to look back on as teenagers and celebrate. Still, these songs of representation at the beginning of the millennium portended to come up for those of us living in American obscurity. As we transitioned into the crunk era, repping your city became repping your set. Our spaces shrunk and our divides multiplied beyond north, south, or poor Black, poor white. The Black got hotter and our square radius became even more constricted. In the meantime, back at the rink, we kissed our teeth at the boys and skated onto the floor to the ow ow and wop wop drums that signaled the start of Chopper Style. In that moment, our circumstances with intellect. We were trying to feel it, trying to turn so many revolutions around the rink that we couldn't feel the heat anymore for the wind. We knew what difference a breeze made inside a cage, how much mobility mattered inside a loop you couldn't figure out how to exit. God of the Motorcade, 2005. In Louisville, from a sidewalk turned sideline on West Broadway, I catch my beloved, absent for weeks now, leading a cortege of Chevelles through the chaos of revelers, as earlier that day children led their handmade floats around a grade school derby parade. As he comes toward me, so too does a throat-dark woman carrying past the scent of coconut. Her naked breast glistens slick as the skin of his convertible coupe. My eyes lit up at him know why he chooses this very spot to turn the chain of revving beasts through a slow U. Picture Dinan at New Year. Now his headlights flooding across my red velour rockaware dress. And for a moment you can see, I am the one. Rumor has it the beast's weakness is an aversion to loud noises, fear of the color red. We are all too familiar with this combination, myths that we are, even this night on the main thoroughfare of River City, splitting our side into a few of us will become legend. I hear a girl say, there he is, my lover, who is also her lover, I see. I watch a boy dance with sharp and ancient movements to Lil Boosie on the roof of an old Buick. Someone daddy calling out red bone to me from behind a pit thick with smoke and the end of an animal. The tail of the monster that keeps him from me, always out of reach, whips away and evanesces at the bend on 18th Street. Ghost Ride. I don't know if y'all ever tried this, but I absolutely tried to ghost ride the whip when I was a teenager. My brain hadn't fully matured yet, so I thought it would be a fun thing to do. I think the most that happened was I twisted my ankle trying to get back in the car. Do not recommend. This poem is called Ghost Ride. I don't mean the midnights I steal at 15, floating air and fuel down Dixie Highway, under the street lamps orbed glare, invisible after I slip my 1988 Cutlass Supreme Classic from my father's driveway. And this isn't code between my phantom love and I for when we meet in a shadow near the downs and I vanish behind his illegal tent. I don't mean the dips we take, the smoke and twisted wisp hovering near quiet lips, sheets of white brick beneath the floorboards, nor the time we get lost and disappear into the dark part of morning, hours cuffed on a curb for refusing to let them search our bodies for a wickedness that isn't there, how they came and went that time, unable to touch us like unclean beings wandered into the wrong realm. A girl I can't remember is what I mean. Look, me behind the wheel in a brown boy's radiant procession of candy paint, each one the same age then as his ghost now. My baby cousin, a reckless angel next to me, going dumb, shotgun on the bench seat of my Oldsmobile when he still had teeth in his head, still had yet to touch flame to the underbelly of a spoon. With the boys, my sex became neutral, a gear I shifted into before throwing open the long coupe door, swinging my legs to place both feet on the risk of pavement. West Coast sound bubbling into a night otherwise country and silent, save the slow crunch of tire. I mean, I had to get out, leave the whip with no direction. (2004), Crime Mob, The Carter, Lil Wayne, Urban Legend T.I., straight out of Cashville, Young Buck, Atlanta, Nashville, New Orleans. Some of us left in the furnaces of steamboats. Some left as porters on the trains. Some stayed. Some migrated north, but not far enough. If you landed in Kentucky, say from Alabama, you might have thought of it as the North before you got there, but realized it was still Dixie once you arrived. Everywhere in America, Dixie. Everywhere a running history of bondage beneath the circus of society peeking out. In the 19th century, rather than a plantation structure, the Louisville economy was organized around a bondsman system, an ironic mobility for Black folks who were rented out to various proprietors around the city for task-based jobs rather than confined to an estate, physically speaking. In the mid-20th century, this class structure remained in place, but mobility became increasingly more restricted after 24/7 electric streetcar service ended in 1948. As Black folks bought homes, white flight commenced in the West End, and the 9th Street divide became a defining reality. To have your own car means everything. It was a symbol of mobility and success in a Southern city that did not have a mass public transportation system or an Amtrak rail to ride out of state, just a fraught inner city bus line to get you downtown to your restaurant job or assembly line. Fast forward to the aughts, and car culture was a thriving Black Southern art genre, a canvas for one's personality and style. This was one of the peripheral cultures that Southern rap preserved for us, alongside our dance anthems and idioms, gold grill fronts, lunch table beats, and internalized misogynoir. The fall of her sophomore year, a girl drives her 1988 Colors Supreme Classic to school with just a permit, a perfectly acceptable thing to do as a 15-year-old in Kentucky. Her father's co-worker at High Tech Cutting Services has sold it to her for a charitable $500. When she drives up to Central High Magna Career Academy, a fancy name that belies the poor state of Muhammad Ali's historically Black alma mater, she has the respect of men. They begin to invite her on exclusive dips to practice formations for cruising at the park or on Derby. In the era of Crime Mob, when even the dudes rap Princess and Diamonds verses, it is acceptable to have a girl in your crew. And as a girl, if you have something that interests boys beside your body, it saves you a lot of trouble. The body of her car is in mint condition, oxblood drip 307 V8. At post 9/11 gas prices, her entire Sonic drive-in paycheck starts going to gas. It doesn't matter. As long as she can take herself wherever she wants to go and leave whenever she wants to leave, as long as she isn't the girl Young Buck raps about in Shorty Wanna Ride, trapped in some dude's car, just another commodity, trapped in some dude's fantasy, just another commodity or feature of his car. 2005, Thug Motivation 101, Young Jeezy, Savage Life, Webby, Who is Mike Jones, The People's Champ, Paul Wall, The Carter 2, Lil Wayne, The Sound of Revenge, Chamillionaire, Atlanta, Baton Rouge, Houston, New Orleans. 2005 was the definitive year. We stayed with a burnt copy of Thug Motivation 101 on repeat. And by now, some of us had managed to get 212s in the trunk with whatever was left over from our busboy tips and dime bag sales after helping out at home. It was the year Mike Jones gave out his number on record, the year we rapped along to Flossin' at the top of our lungs out the window. It was the year Chamillionaire gave us an anthem for racial profiling, and Webby spit every car known to man in a 16. It was the year even a white boy came with the heat on Sitting Sideways, Still Tipping, and Drive Slow, and had the internet going nuts before most of us even had the internet. Let's meet up on 11th Street tonight, Man yells out his window at the Marathon gas station before we get tight out of the parking lot and down 18th Street, our after-school tradition. The heat built up over the course of a day inside our air-conditioned school buildings. Sometimes we drive in a formation. We had the choreography down before we rode together. We had the choreography down because we rode together a lot. Went on dips out on the empty old roads. We knew one another's car down to the transmission and how a certain person drove, their idiosyncrasies and inclinations towards stupidity and recklessness. We were made lion-hearted by our mobility. We were also made more vulnerable. Having a car meant more encounters with the police. That year, a girl gets her first reckless driving charge for burning rubber as she turns from 18th onto Broadway. And just in case her high yellow ass is still confused about how white people and authority figures see her after 12 years in public school institutions, the officer makes sure to check Black female on the citation. I think I have 4 more excerpts. I hope I'm still okay on time. Ode to my first car, 1988 Cutlass Supreme Classic 307 V8 dual exhaust. 1. My mother had one first, arterial red, mean. Once a week, she sent it through the car wash, where I followed it down the line, nose to glass. At the other end, vein-armed men airboxed over who'd be the one to polish it down. Always so glossy, I could see the contours of my girl body reflected in the wet paint, and behind me, the twin spires. My mother's freedom and short pockets of time, our little room of song. The radio hiccuping over potholes betrayed our harmony. If I pulled the metal latch and the door swung open, I snuck behind the wheel. 2. And then I had my own. Ox blood, a car full of cousins, the dark silhouette of our heads bobbing with laughter and song in the officer's headlights. On the citation, there was a box labeled Black. At home, there was my mother's question, what did you do to make him think you were? I was, her silhouette, pronounced against her whiteness, framed inside her idioms of avoidance, America's shorthand. But it wasn't what I was that was wrong, Black blood tunneling. It was her refusal to see me apart from herself, across our historical chasm. 3. The scorched pistons clinking my favorite machine to a stall on the dark parkway named for a nation corralled far from here. 307 horses giving out, their knees dropping to the winter asphalt, the oil pan run dry. I've been trying to escape the limits of my mother's sight. 550 feet from Dixie, the red light falling into green, someone's horn cursing like a starter pistol. Since I'd known the horses, I'd been running. When the gun went off, I knew to run. 2006, 2007, King, T.I., Port of Miami, Rick Ross. Thug Motivation 102, Young Jeezy, Dedication to Lil Wayne, UGK, Throw Some D's, Rich Boy, Shoulder Lean, Young Dro, Atlanta, East Texas, New Orleans, Miami, Mobile. By 2006, we were in the era of sequels. The murder count in our city rose, and loss became so mundane as to be anticlimactic, sublimating our joy and suspicions of an elsewhere. Some encounters lasted longer than others. Sometimes we were pulled out of our cars and questioned individually. Sometimes we asserted our rights. No, you may not search my car, but most of the time we had none. Sometimes they made us leave our means of transport behind. Sometimes we chose to leave it voluntarily while the whip was still in motion, a ritual for our ghosts to ride. One day, a girl walks out of her school building to find her parking spot empty. Weeks later, her caddy is found in Victory Park, a crip-heavy block in Louisville's California neighborhood. Unwilling to walk in and retrieve it, she has to wait for it to be told. A month later, on her way home from the impound lot, the rods are knocking and the motor running hot, turning off at every light she comes to. Some young kids on a joyride must have dogged it. Eventually, it locks up right where 18th turns into Dixie Highway. The engine gone quiet, the music persisting into the warm night. She sends word to one of her boys to come get her, and he comes. Bonus track, New American South, Rhapsody, Missy Elliott, Megan Thee Stallion, Janelle Monáe, Diamond and Princess, City Girls, Trina, Left Eye, Lizzo, Big Frida, Chica, Mulatto, Jackie O, Kaya, LaChat, Gangsta Boo, China White, Mia X. Some 15 years later, I look back on the soundtrack of my teenage angst and realize that women rappers, while tucked into a verse here and there in our CD cases and LimeWire files, were not as prolific or celebrated in the rap we gloried in as the men. I was trying to survive my girlhood, not make it conspicuous via loud recitation. If this was the record of our lives, and if the voices of women rappers were non-existent or accessory, then so were ours, so were we. What this archive reveals is that when we were young, what started as a weak solidarity between boys and girls advanced to a game of chase, the psychology of the hunt, and graduated to expectations of sexual favors and harassment as a measure of one's manhood. In this progression, all association with femininity became dangerous. To distance yourself from the feminine in you was a survival strategy. However, Southern women make legible a whole periphery of possibilities. What kind of mobility would they have offered to a 16-year-old Black girl wanting out of a male-oriented cipher? What vehicle? I want to close with a poem. The most recent poem I wrote. It's a part of a series called The Black Outside. And I want to dedicate this poem today to the organizers of this festival, and to the Black women who organized in Louisville in 2020. I wrote that essay I just read from. It got at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And it's been really hard to write after 2020. So I want to dedicate this poem to the Black women who organized that year and who continue to organize: Hannah Drake, Keturah Heron, Brianna Wright, Shamika Parrish Wright, Chanel Helm, Talisha Wilson, Sadiqa Reynolds, Taylor Ryan, Tyra Walker, Imani Smith, Tamika Palmer, the mother of Breonna Taylor, Jalen Stewart, Shantrice Martin, Minda Honey, Rihanna Nicole Thornton, the loved ones of David McAtee, the loved ones of Hamza Travis Nagdi, and the mother of Quintez Brown. The Black Outside. We brought the blues, the voices of the field, into the commemorative big house. We carried seeds from home in our hair like lice. We wore blue lilies, ecosystems above our ears. We came into this world, but we're not of it. Of the refuse, but not the refined. The ritual of wormwood, but not waste. Here's to the rot in us, which would otherwise be abundance if we could be otherwise, which would otherwise be alive if we could otherwise be. The way our feet hover spectral among the foliage, the way we recognize one another across the long centuries inside without the right language and names. We brought the blues. We carried them between our ears, in from outside, the voices of our dead alive in our hair like seeds. We survive spectral. Outside the Constitution, we are otherwise abundant. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. We brought the blues into this world, but refused to be of it. We went missing, went marine, marooned in grief's aquatic caves, ate the dirt and the lice. Among the foliage, there is no language of waste. There is no rot. We commemorate the ecosystems that would otherwise be. The centurion worm wearing the field. Oh, beloved, I hear you outside singing so clear my ritual names. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Joy. Let's go ahead and show her some love in the chat, and the link to purchase the book can be found in the chat afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and highlight just a couple of things that the chat said. They were just blowing up as you were reading all of the different excerpts. They were loving the nostalgia. Dr. Tatiana said that. Willa Brewer, beautiful, brings back so many wonderful memories. Phyllis was talking about your Camaro car. She also had one, highlighting a bunch of different things. Jamaica said she knows what music she's going to be listening to after the book festival. All these are making me feel at home and taking me back. Really, really, really loved your excerpts. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the Q&A. Hello, I'm Miranda Massman, Vice President of the Women for Women Student Board, a student organization under the Women's Center, and I'll be moderating the Q&A session. Go ahead and put your questions in the chat. We may not be able to answer all your questions, but we will try to get to as many as we can. So we're going to go ahead and start with some questions that were already submitted from the audience. So can you go ahead and share your journey on writing and publishing? Who and what were your inspiration?
Yeah, I'm trying to read the chat.
Understandable.
The question was, what was the question? I'm so sorry.
No, you're all good. Can you go ahead and share a little bit about your journey for writing and publishing? Go ahead and start with your journey for writing, your inspiration.
Ooh, it's a lot. I mean, I've been writing since I was a kid. It's just something I did. I mean, I grew up, like I said, on the backside of the racetrack. My only caretaker was a 70-year-old man, so I spent a lot of time alone. I read a lot of books. I was a part of the scholastic program in the summer at the Louisville Public Libraries. Like, I just was writing from the beginning. You know, slam. I was a part of a rap group in high school that turned into slam poetry. When I went to Wyandotte Park, I used to play basketball there. It turned into, you know, slam poetry, especially when I went to college. And then towards the end of undergrad, I was the president of the National Association of Black Journalists, and my advisor was Frank X. Walker. And I told him, hey, I write poems too. You know, I'd always written poems. It was just a private thing I did. And he said, well, let me see some of them. And I showed them to him, and he gave me great encouragement about it and said, you know, you have a lot to say. You have some important things to say. You just need some craft classes. So I signed up for his class and Nikki Finney's class the next semester. And from then on out, I was just a poet. I didn't know that you could be a poet. I didn't know that there's something you could do in, what was it, 2011. I didn't know, you know, and then Nikki Finney won the National Book Award that year. I was the features editor at the Kentucky Kernel, and I covered it. So I just decided, oh, this is what I'm gonna do. It just made sense. It was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. This is who I am. And, you know, everything led me there. I had an incredible English teacher in high school, Jonathan Bays. I believe his wife, I saw her name in here, who maybe was like one of the first people who told me I was a good writer. And so obviously when someone tells you you're good at something, you gravitate towards that thing, and it becomes a part of your identity. So I think being a writer, or thinking of myself as a writer, started in Mr. Bays's class for sure. Yeah, I feel like I had one more thing to say, but you know, yeah, I realized that you could be a poet, and Nikki Finney would end up, that's what I wanted to say. Nikki Finney would end up being my teacher for the next 10 years. I went and studied with her for my master's in fine arts, and she, you know, was my thesis advisor. So she was there with the poems in the book all the way through. And I mean, an invaluable, like, classic apprentice, you know, novice master relationship, you know, yeah.
All very wonderful inspirations. Honestly, I love hearing the different path that all different authors take. So can you talk a little bit about maybe your journey into publishing specifically? I know we have a bunch of different authors that are also curious to know about that.
My journey into publishing, let's see. Well, it would have started like in the classes with Nikki and Frank, because I think I started going to this summer retreat that Nikki did at the Hyman Settlement School in Eastern Kentucky, in Hyman, Kentucky. And from there, oh my goodness. From there, not know this. Yes, sorry. I had to make sure about the last name. From there, Marion Worthington, who runs Still the Journal, which is a Kentucky literary journal, published a folio from our retreat. And so I think that was when the idea of publishing was first introduced. And I, as using my journalism research skills, I made a list of journals that I loved. I started reading literary journals, and I made a list of journals. I would read others' poetry collections, and I would see where they published their poems, and I would make a list. And I was waiting tables in Kentucky after I graduated from I was in food service since I was 15. I think I started working at Sonic at about 14 or 15. Then I worked at Old Spaghetti Factory, Tumbleweed on the Waterfront, so many little restaurants in Lexington. And when my writing career really started taking off, I was waiting tables and writing poems and sending them to journals. That's just what I would do. I would go to my waitress shift, and I would and then at night I would like work on my poems, and I would send them to journals. And then one year I got into Best New Poets, and I said, okay, maybe I gotta like foot in this race here. I'm gonna pursue this. People started reaching out to me about this work. Someone told me to go to the Bread Loaf Writers Conference. And while I was there, I made the like connections that would introduce me to what an M.F.A. is and where what journals I should publish in to do what. But it really was just like my own personal research into like how to get my writing out into the world. Because at the end of the day, writers are usually people who at some point in their life has been silenced or has turned to writing because, someone is not listening to them, and they want to be read. We want to be read. So I was just like trying to get my work out there, and it just built up from there. But yeah, I was waiting tables and just sending out to literary journals. So.
Great advice. Great advice. Okay. So another question that was already submitted. So your book has been described as an escape narrative. So what does that mean exactly to you?
Actually, I describe it as that because they make you write your own
That works too.
When you ain't nobody yet, they're like, you gotta do all this on your own. So I was like, a cinematic escape narrative. You just kind of be fancy, okay? But no, I was really into film, and so I was just thinking in terms of genre. And I mean, it's an escape narrative. It's literally, if it's based on my journey, like how I got out of Kentucky. I'm sorry I left y'all, but I had to get out to there. I don't think it's the safest place psychologically for young Black people. And so, and I have so much respect for everyone who is staying there and doing the work. And I think the third section of this book was a huge guilt trip on my part. Like it was like dealing with my guilt about leaving, but it was like I was not doing well when I was there. So that was the spirit that I was in when I was writing the poems in this book. And it's a big thing behind the sort of psychological aspect of horsepower, like just gunning, how one guns their way out of their socioeconomic circumstances, domestic violence, all these other things. Cinematic escape. I also watched this movie that's like shortly before the book went into production. The manuscript went into the production process to make it a book. And this movie was called Mississippi Damned. It was Tessa Thompson's first movie role. And it's just like, I mean, it was the same sort of, I followed almost that structure, that film structure for the book. So I was just thinking about the escape narrative as a genre, like for a young Southern girl, like, Southern girls are supposed to stay home and be nurturing and take care of their families and stuff. And it was really, it felt really transgressive to just leave everybody, like say, I'm going to choose myself and get the fuck out of Dodge. I'm sorry, excuse my language. But yeah, so it felt important to like write that, you know, that waywardness is aspirational for young Southern girls. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent description. Okay. You talked a little bit about it, but so how can artists and writers use their craft as a platform for activism? Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, sometimes it's like that's a difficult question, and it's something it's something that I just keep an open dialogue with my students when they ask me about it. Aspirational. And I mean, because like as a craft instructor, as someone who's talking about how to write, I always tell my students, don't start there. Don't start like, don't feel like, oh, I have to write a poem about this thing that just happened because I have to use my voice for activism. Eventually that's going to come into the work, like in the drafting process, but you don't want to start there because it can just, I mean, one way, it's a quick way to get writer's block, but because the thing can be so huge, it can be so personal, it can be so paralyzing. I have not yet been able to write a poem about any of the events that have happened in Louisville since 2020. You know what I mean? But I feel so much pressure to do so. What I could do though is contact my press and say, hey, I want to do an interview around the book, but I want to talk about what's happening in my city. Because the book is a narrative that comes out of that space, and everything that it's talking about is related to what's happening right now. It's not abstract. So like one thing I did is, you know, just publicly talking about it. But Toni Morrison also talks about like racism being distracting. And so the reason why I just discourage my students from, not discourage, I don't want to use that word. The reason why I encourage them to start in the mundane is because you can find yourself just sort of chasing every new violence that happens if you sort of start there. So I think the ways that you use your voice for activism as a writer is you be read up on everything, you study, you're a student of organizers and activists and public intellectuals like James Baldwin, Fred Moten, Sadia Hartman, Hortense Spillers. You know, you study those who come before us who've done this work, so that it's already in your repertoire when you sit down to write, and it comes out. You know, it's a part of you. It's a part of your ethos.
Great thoughts. Great thoughts. Okay, so we have a question from the chat from Cherry. So now that you can see Louisville from the outside, do you have any ideas or advice for how we can create change and safer spaces for women and women of color?
Yeah, that's a really big thing. Once I left Louisville, Louisville became more illuminated to me. Like, I don't know really how to say that, but I also have, I wouldn't say when I was living in Louisville, I was proud to be from there. And that may have been an immaturity thing too, because I was a teenager, but it just felt like a nowhere place sometimes. And, you know, I talk about that feeling of like living in American obscurity or whatever, because it feels like Kentucky as a whole is just like a really neglected place in terms of like the rest of the nation. It's not a part of like the national imagination, the national, until it comes time to like get Mitch McConnell out of office or something, you know? But in leaving, I was able to recognize the incredible amount of love I have for that place and how important it is to the rest of the country. And I was also able to see the problems, the issues. And I think that's because in the subsequent places I've lived, the way that things are gone about in Louisville in particular just feel so behind in terms of like the collective consciousness, about issues of race, and just how to do things. I don't know. And I see, and it's bad everywhere, but I see, like, you know, I might live somewhere else and I'll see like, oh, like, you know, it just feels like the consciousness of the public leaders and people in positions of power in Louisville is just really far behind. But I think it's such a complicated thing that that has a lot to do with the very specific intersections of Louisville and of Kentucky, and like understanding that it is in people in power's interest to keep things the way they are. So I mean, there is no easy answer to that. I think the only thing that, you know, I don't have the answer to that. I don't. Not a quick answer unless I want to keep talking for 30 more minutes. I would love to have like be a part of like, you know, a place like where I
forum, yeah,
come and read poems, but could just like talk about those things, you know, because I think too, like a thing is we don't think of we like think of poets as like people that just read poems, but they're actually like observers and students of people in the communities and things like that. And I think that's one thing I've tried to do is illuminate how like my role as a poet is also a part of being a part of the like public discourse and like conversations with each other and stuff like that. But I think, you know, I think the Women's Center at U of L and everyone is probably the Kentucky Foundation for Women, who gave me a residency one time. Like everyone's doing the work, everyone's doing all that they can do with the resources that they have, and it's just slow moving progress, you know. But I don't, you know, no easy answers.
Exactly. It's such a broad question, but I think you gave a very good and intelligent response. Okay, so one more question. So what do you want readers to take away from your book, Horsepower?
I want them to take away that there's no easy, super like scripted, superficial post-racism answer to our American problems. These things are complex, and the poetry is the one genre that apprehends that complexity. Like there's this big no-no that poets, like the big no-no for poets is don't be sentimental. Like you hear a lot like, oh my gosh, like the worst thing a poem can be is sentimental, like a Hallmark card, you know what I mean? And that's because the opposite of sentimentality is not like indifference or like being aloof. It's complexity. And the ways that we talk about issues in our society are often like, you know, there's a scripted conversation that you can have around them. There's particular phrases that you're allowed to use and all this stuff. And I think poetry is a way to like talk complexly about things and issues. I think one of the reasons I haven't got a lot, like I want to get a lot, maybe the writing isn't that good, but some awards that I've wanted to get and haven't got, I think it's because like, one of the things I noticed is that like best-selling or popular books often you can sum them up in like a sentence. What is this book about? It's about blah, 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 blah. And I think that's really hard to do for this book. So the one thing I want people to take away is like sit with it. Like don't expect it to tell you exactly what it's about. You know, it's about everything at the same time, you know. And you can only do that with poetry in a poetry collection.
And I think that's true for most great pieces of writing. It shouldn't be digestible. It should have those deeper meanings that make you think. Okay, and then our final question for the Q&A is going to be, what advice do you have for fellow Black poets and artists, and then in general for aspiring writers?
What words of inspiration do I have for, sorry, I was thinking about what you said about.
Yes. So advice that you have for fellow Black poets and artists, and then in general for aspiring writers.
Yeah, I think the thing that Toni Morrison says is about racism is like really important to think about as a Black writer. Don't let anyone pressure you about what you're supposed to be writing about. Like there are many, 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 many Black writers and thinkers out there, and it's gonna get covered. You know, you can write about whatever you want to write about. And I think also there's this pressure on Black writers to like write about hope or to have a hopeful message. Like that is not our exclusive purview. Like, you know, that sometimes that frustrates me a lot, that like one of the most persecuted groups in the history of this country is expected to be like the bearers of hope. Like, fuck out of here with that. So like I would just say to Black writers, like what would you write what you want to write, and like don't let anyone pressure you. In general, for writers, I would say a lot of people ask me, I'll get questions like, you know, how did you write this book? How did you put this book together? What were you thinking on this and this and that? And I like really want to encourage aspiring writers to turn to your inward and to think about, what is your vision? What do you want to read? What's important to you? Like, what ideas do you have? What do you want to create? Like, get into it. Go crazy about it. Let people think you out your mind. Like, but have your own vision. Like, that's so important. Like, know what you want to do. Like, make decisions. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm gonna say it again. Have your own vision. That's like what a great art, like all the great artists we know had their own vision. To like, you know, have your own vision.
I love that. I love that. Have your own vision. Very, very internalized and then externalized. Okay. All right. Thank you all so much for your questions. And thank you, Joy, for your excellent responses to all these wonderful questions. So we're now going to be hearing from the Young Authors panel, Inspiring the Next Generation of Authors, moderated by Dr. Tatiana Ringstaff. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tatiana Ringstaff, a local poet, author, and founder of Honey Tree Publishing. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. That was incredible, Sister Joy Priest. I mean, I am blown away by your words. I can't wait to purchase your books. Greetings, I'm Dr. Tatiana Ringstaff, formerly Wells, your moderator for today's 2022 Kentucky Women's Book Festival's Young Authors Panel and Q&A session with Miss Cherish Wilson and Miss DeCoriana Garrett. Cherish Wilson she wrote the book Ghetto But Us, Bleeding Black Scent, Bantu Twist, and Braid Out is a collection of poems about self-discovery, family, and love. It's about growing up in a world where you are taught to hate yourself and that you are inadequate. It's about finding out that you are enough in all your Blackness. This poetic storytelling is told in the language of Black scent, which is not seen as a deficiency, but rather as an asset, a work of art. It's acknowledging that family may not be perfect, but they're perfect for you because they are who you came from and who you love. The mature tone of this work will have you thinking that Cherish Wilson is a young adult. However, she's just 13 years old, but have lived in situations that have necessitated for her to learn and to process the harshness of growing up Black in an urban city. While Wilson's voice is only one, she believes vocally expressing some of her most vulnerable experiences has freed her and will free others. No more self-silencing, she says. Cherish is a student at Westport Middle School. We also have young author DeCoriana Garrett. DeCoriana is a 24-year-old author from Louisville, Kentucky. Her story, I am a child who came from teen high school dropouts. I lost my father to gun violence. I'm a victim of molestation. I've been in foster care. I'm breaking generational curses, and I was a teen mother. She says all of this to say, during my life, I've been through so many storms, but now I am overcoming them and reaching my rainbow. My main goal as an author is to be a guide for others, using my experiences to help them. Her books include Learning from Rose. Rose teaches Bully a lesson. The Flight, Not the Fall. Thoughts and Poems for a Foster Care Teen Who Triumphed. She is working to complete other books with varying titles. The COVID-19 Pandemic 2020, How I Became a Self-Published Author, and Sister's Vacation. She graduated from JCTC with an associate degree in applied science and education and is currently a junior at U of L majoring in social work. She is also a striving entrepreneur with a nonprofit company called Teaching Young Minds Independence, TYMI. Just a little bit. I'm so thrilled to work with these young panelists, with these young authors. I'm so excited about the work that you all are doing. I myself am an author as well and a book publisher. My company is Honey Tree Publishing, and I've published children's books called Sweet Pea and Sugar Tea's Country Family Adventures. It's a collection of African American poems. It's a 4-volume book series, and I'm also the author of several other books, including The Healing Tree, a book of poetry, prose, meditations, and affirmations, and When Hip Hop Met Poetry, an urban love story. It's a memoir about my life as a teenager. Specifically about this panel discussion, if you have any questions that you have during the questions that I'm going to be asking, or any comments to the questions, or to what Miss Cherish and Miss DeCoriana are going to be presenting, definitely use the chat feature. We will get to as many questions as we can due to the time allowed it. First, we will start with a few questions that I have previously shared with the authors. So will we start with both? Let's see. I can't. I'm trying to find Cherish Wilson. Are you able to share your screen?
Share my screen.
Or not share your screen, but
Oh,
show
oh,
yourself on the screen.
oh,
Sorry about that. Yes, and Miss DeCoriana, Miss Garrett. It's so nice to meet you all and to see you all on here. I see is that your beautiful mother?
it's my grandmother.
Oh, beautiful. You are so beautiful. So nice to see you both. And good to see you too, Miss DeCoriana.
Hello.
Well, yes. Well, I have a few questions for you all. I've already shared them with you, so I know you had a little time to kind of think about them and everything. So, the first question is, what does it mean to be a Black author for your generation and in today's era?
I think what it means for me is just having a voice, not only for me but other young Black girls, because Black people in general don't have the loudest voice.
Yeah.
And I think it means not being afraid to speak up and tell my story, because I think the world could really benefit from it too.
Love that. Love that. Would you like to share, DeCoriana?
Yes, mine's is kind of similar to hers. For one, it means having the opportunity to do what my ancestors wasn't able to do, as being a Black author, and it also gives me a platform to reach so many people and help them do their struggles.
I love that. I love that. Tell us a little bit about your early writing journey. Who or what has inspired you to pursue your career as an author?
I started writing when I was 8, which was around when my brother died. I kind of understood that he was not gonna come back, but I didn't understand the concept of death, like really. So I just wrote him a little letter and I read it at his funeral. But what inspired me is just things that I've grown up around, like seeing like Black culture and all that, and things I've been through too. So,
Tell me a little bit about where you're from. What neighborhood are you from?
okay, so I'm from the West End, around the Esquire Street, the Brown Apartments. From there, I grew up Village West. I grew up. I was there until I was about was it 7? Oh, 8, and then we moved. So we moved out the outer loop area. Then we moved to the outer loop area. But right now. I'm in Charlotte because I live with my grandmother's now. So
So you've grown up around different parts of Louisville, around the city.
yeah.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. What about you, Mr. Coriana?
Um, I started writing when I was in 3rd grade. I actually have this little fun book that my 3rd grade teacher actually made us do as a art project, and it's called Rose. So this was originally my Rose book. Actually, that I lived in Atlanta, Georgia with my aunt who's on here, and so it's like even published. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's has on here Gwen Oaks Elementary Acorn Publishing Company. So this book was like an art project, a writing project that our teacher had us do, and that inspired me to get like self-publish and be an author. But also back in 2019 in January, I believe, this little boy who was 10 at the time, his name is Seven Bridges, and he was 10 and he committed suicide from bullying. So that is what made me want to publish the Rose book. And I kind of took what I did in third grade and did a little editing to it and basically published the same book, but I just added more to it.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So that really hit you. That really hit home for you. Did you know him? You knew?
No, I didn't know him,
Yeah.
but when I was in third grade, in like second grade, I was bullied because I had like a big nose and
A
like I just
beautiful
was.
nose.
Yes, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
so like I was just bullied as a child, so it like touched me, and then I was like, if a 10-year-old, is getting bullied to the point that he feels like he has to take his own life,
Yeah.
then there's other 10-year-olds or younger people who feel the same way, and there's something that I need to do about it. And so that's why I published my book, to reach those children.
I love that. Wow. Such a huge impactful decision to make, especially as a writer, as a young writer, as a young person, being inspired by that story. I remember when I heard about that, and that's incredible that you wrote that story just to kind of talk about bullying and the impact of it. And especially from a young Black young woman, a lot of times we don't hear it from our experiences. So I think that was very courageous of you to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As a young author, what has been most challenging throughout your writing and publishing journey?
I think the most challenging thing has been getting people to like listen and hear me out. Because like a lot of people think, oh, she's a kid, she doesn't have anything important to say, she
Mm.
hasn't stood enough, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But I think once people like really listen, they're like, oh my God, you said that? You know what you're talking about? Like, yeah, a little bit, I think so. But I think it's, yeah, I think it's just like a shocker, really.
That's awesome. What about you, Mr. Coriana?
I think for me, it's like getting like my name out, my book out, is really challenging to me because I'm like a really quiet, shy person. And like I can promote on Facebook and everything, but as far as like telling people, hey, I'm an author and I would like to be at your event or something like that is scary to me. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so there are a lot of challenges out there, right? What was like the first thing that came to your mind when you were like, okay, I know that this is new, right? This is like a new experience for me to become an author, right? I'm sure you probably had that in your mind. What was like the first thing you had to get over when it came to becoming the author that you are today?
I think one thing I had to get over was like understanding that I can produce what I want to produce and not like knowing that like I wanted to write something people would want to read, but at the same time I wanted to write something that, I could get out and make a message and all that, and something that meant something to me too. Like I didn't just want to write something that everybody else would like. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that was really hard because I was like, well, what if they don't like this? What if what if I hurt somebody's feelings? What if somebody's uncomfortable reading this and all? I think it was just getting over that type of mindset and
Mm-hmm.
just this is what I wrote. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, then it's not for you, you know?
Yeah. Did you have any other support around you? I know you have one right by your side right now. Yeah. What were some of the words that you heard as you were on that journey to become an author? What were some of those early words, maybe times when you did feel challenged and you had somebody to kind of, push you along the way and still keep you moving forward?
My English teacher, Miss Johnson from Westport in seventh grade, Dr. Johnson. She, uh, she, I read one of my poems to her. Like I wasn't looking to publish a book. I was just looking for feedback because she was an English teacher. And she read it and she was like, "This is actually good. You're a good writer." And like she asked me, she was like, "Did you know you're a good writer?" And I was like, I never really I just did writing because I liked it. I felt passionate. I didn't really think that I could like really make something big out of it. I didn't know that I was a writer. But when she told me, I was like, oh well, maybe I got this in the bag. And my granny also, I love her to death. She I would read some of my stuff to her, and she'd be like, Cherish, this is so good. Like you should do something with this. So I think just encouragement from those two people really helped me a lot.
Oh, I love that so much. It's so important to have that village. You know, you have them in a lot of spaces that you go to a lot of times, and people just pouring into you. And so you have your, you know, you have your grandmother next to you. You have teachers, you know, and I remember, you know, being a young author and writing, and that was something that, you know, some of my first you know, supporters were people in my family and then people at my school. So I love that. I love that. And you go to Westport, right?
I used to go to Westport. I'm in 8th grade now. I go to
You go where?
Farnsley.
Oh, at Farnsley. Okay, awesome, awesome. All right, well, Miss DeCoriana, the question is, and I know we were talking, as a young author, what has been most challenging throughout your writing and publishing journey?
Um, well, like I was saying, like I guess like getting my books out,
Hmm.
not stepping out of the shyness that I am. So like doing events like this is like
Yeah,
um helping me not be so shy and get my books and name out there.
yeah,
Um, and it was like me for me, like I wanted to take the leap to like be a self-published author.
hmm,
Is like I wanted to follow my dream, so it was my dream back in 3rd grade to do it. Like I knew that I wanted to be an author, and I wanted to be a leader for others, so just actually doing it. And then it's like I did it for my son too, so he can know that, oh, just because anything like life struggles, just because you have these things that's blocking you or seem like blockers, you can still do it. So
that's right. Who's been in your corner to help push you forward? You know, during the times when you were on your way to becoming an author, what were some of the people who just really helped push you along the way,
um
or some
my
of the experiences?
my aunts, they are very like helping me, um motivate me, and tell me to do whatever I want to do. And my
Yeah,
son, even though he's so little and he doesn't actually tell me, just looking at him makes me want to follow
that's
every dream that I have. So,
beautiful. I love that. Yes, I love that. You are an incredible mother and you're using life as an inspiration for
mhm.
your own and to build, you know, your to build your life with your child, you know, and with your family. I think that's so important whenever we have that meaningful um you know, appreciation for the craft that we have and being able to help other people along the way too. I mean, that's where the genuine, the heart, you know, comes from when you are a writer. It's from your own experiences and from the people who have poured into you. So incredible, incredible. What advice do you have for young writers who aspire to become authors?
Um, Anything can happen. Have patience and don't worry about what like feedback is always good, but don't worry too much on what everybody thinks of your writing. Because at the end of the day, it's your stuff. You produced it. You were brave enough to do it, and I feel like that's the main point of it, really.
It is, yes. What about you, Mr. Coriana?
um, I wrote a couple of things down, um, to keep writing, because obviously, if you are wanting to be an author, a writer, you're obviously writing. So keep writing. Uh, Figure out the steps and process you want to take to be a writer. If you want to be like go through the tradition and have a company, or go through a company or self-publish, do that, but also like do what you want to do in life, because there's
Mhm.
nothing that's in the way of doing that, especially now. Like, we have so many opportunities to do what we want to do in
Right.
life and to follow all the dreams that we want to follow. There's no reason to not do it. Only you are like keeping you from doing what you want to do. There's nothing else in your way. So
Right. Can you all talk a little bit about, because you all are self-published authors, is that correct?
yes, I am.
Okay, and you all published through what companies did you all use to publish through, or
Uh,
printing companies?
I use Kindle Direct Publishing, which is
Oh,
published through Amazon.
okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, how did you hear about the Kindle public? I hadn't heard of that one, so that's wonderful.
Um, I was just doing research on how to self-publish, and then I came across Kindle Direct Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had actually made me a account maybe 2 or 3 years prior to actually
Mm-hmm.
publishing my book, and I just liked the format. It was just really easy. Basically, I just used a Word document and formatted my book into a book format, and then put it on there, and it was just like a snap of a finger, that easy. I
Awesome.
did reach out to other authors, and I got some feedback from some authors, like April Barnes, who's down here, and who told me some steps to take also. But yeah.
Awesome.
I'm horrible at pronouncing this, but it's Qui Doset Dicet Publishing, and it's the publishing company that my English teacher was with. So,
Oh, okay.
since she gave me that one, so um, she also just like helped me a lot on like there was some things like punctuation I had trouble with, and she was
Mm.
just like put something there. It's like she helped me with the format, how to put it on. Because like I emailed the poems to her, she just helped me like layer it right and all that. But
Awesome. So, so you all have you're using different publishing platforms, right? So, what is there? Is there a program or a like a platform that you all use to kind of get the word out? I know you talked a little bit about the sharing it, marketing your own book, right? It's a business. You got to market, on your own many times, and sometimes you market with other companies. But what's been your marketing strategy for your generation? What has worked for you all?
um, I'm in this program called 300 for 300.
Okay.
Uh, Founder, her name is Chastity Dotson, and she's an actor, but she's really helped me get my word out. Like she's been posting it on Instagram, she's been posting it on Facebook. She's like just social media. Like social media has its downsides, of course. Like it can make young girls feel insecure, which um, but it also helps people like find themselves and like get the word out, marketing and all that too. So social media has the biggest stuff in that.
Awesome. Okay. Have you found the same thing, Mr. Coriana? Is it similar or something different?
Yes, mine's is similar. So social media, I have an Arthur page on Facebook and Instagram, but also for me, I've learned knowing who my target audience is also, and reaching them. So like mine's is also the foster youth,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a former foster youth.
Right.
So like I reached out to my caseworkers and all of them, and like I was able to do a public speaking at the For Casa Day at the State House of Indianapolis, Indiana, and that was like really really big. It was an honor to even be there and to be invited. And one of my child advocates invited me. So reaching out to my old advocates, my caseworkers, letting them know so they can let the foster youth community know, and just being and connect with, college organizations like this and stuff like that. So knowing who my target audience is and reaching out to them.
Love that. Are you all planning on helping any other, young writers, or maybe starting a program or a club? When I was your age, I was always trying to start a club, and I always just start something with my friends and writing clubs, things like that. Is that something that you all have thought about, or help other writers?
I'm trying to find a way to make a writing club at my school, because like I have a lot of places for like, because a lot of kids at Farmsley like to write, so I'm trying to see if I could start like a writing club where people just like share what they write.
Love that. Oh, that sounds great. That sounds so awesome. And then, Decorian, are you working with anyone? I know you're finishing with school, so
Yeah.
so is there like a group that you're working with, a writing group, or?
No, not right now. I did talk to several self-published authors in the Louisville community who we are wanting to get together and have like a boot camp or something to help others self-publish. And also with my nonprofit that I have, I want to have a platform for foster youth to publish and get into writing. And if they desire to publish, then I would help them do that. So that's something that I want to do.
Love that. Miss Joy Priest, she actually mentioned that there was the Kentucky Foundation for Women, and she received a residency, a grant through them. And I've received a couple of grants to them as well. So highly recommend that for the both of you to just take a look at that. They have a lot of different opportunities where you can start a program, you can start a writing, club, or you can do something that kind of helps other people out with your craft, with your passion. So highly recommend check them out as well. So wonderful. We're moving right along in these questions. I know I'm throwing in some new ones too. So a little bit let's see. So reflecting on your books, published and unpublished, what books are you looking forward to sharing with your dear readers?
Probably the one I'm working on now, because it shows growth in my writing and perseverance, and a bit more into my childhood too. Because my mother has schizophrenia, as you know, it says in my first book that she's schizophrenia. So she recently lost custody of me, and I was kind of in the foster care system for a little bit until my granny, um, she's in the process. But I kind of wrote a little bit about that, and I wrote some of my supporters and all that. But probably perseverance, strength, and a little bit more into my childhood too.
Wow, sounds like you have some speaking engagements coming up too. Eventually, yeah, being able to tell your story and helping other people. I think that's powerful. So powerful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For me, I like this book that's published, The Flight, Not the Fall. Thoughts and poems from a foster care teen who triumphed. I like that book, and a book that I'm currently writing about my life, which will be a 2-part book. Is how I plan on doing it. But I like. I look forward to sharing them because it's like it can help other people. It helped me actually writing them. It was really therapeutic for me to write them. So, and it's about topics, being a single mom, being a survivor of molestation, because I know in my thing that you shared in the beginning, I said that I was a what did I say? I didn't say survivor, and I say survivor now because I realized that that's something that I overcame and I'm a survivor of. But and losing a parent to gun violence, being a teen mom, so things like that, breaking generational curses are topics that I like to talk about, and I feel like it's very touching to everybody, because everybody have generational curses that we may not even know about, and that's something that we just all need to be aware of, and talk about and bring out now. So that's what I look forward to sharing with my readers.
Wow, wow. Tell me a little bit about, and you talked a little bit about this just now. What is next? You know, what is next for you with your books? How do you plan to promote your books? How do you plan to get the word out? Are you going to do any more speaking engagements? Have you thought about working with specific companies, organizations to kind of help share your stories? You know, what's the next step for you? What's the next phase in your authorship experience in your journey?
Um, Chastity Dotson, she's making a documentary on like the girls in her program. So I think I'd promote my next book by that outlet.
Awesome. You mind turning, I think the camera switched. That's okay. I know it's probably easier to hold it the other way.
Yeah.
That's okay. What's that platform called again?
Oh, 300 for 300.
300 for 300. Okay.
It's a
Very
program
cool.
of black girls, and it's just to like help them be more comfortable in their skin, come into their blackness and all that. Like she said, she used to get bullied for having a big nose. Like just helping black girls feel beautiful, because even in today's society, we're criticized on having big lips, big forehead, big nose, and all that, or having really untamed hair and all that. And you see uh, the Kardashians with our features, and they're profiting off of it. So I think that program is just a good program to help black girls really feel comfortable and
Love that.
and dream big too.
Absolutely. Is that, and that is local, a local organization? Okay. Where can we find that out for some of the attendees who may be interested in connecting with that?
She has a website, so if you just go onto Safari or whatever, you just type in 300 for 300, her .org, her website will pop up, and you can read a bit about it.
300.org. Okay, we're gonna have to add that to the chat. That sounds awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. Miss DeCoriana, did you want to say anything?
Yes, what's next for me is publishing some more books over the summer. One book that I want to publish is for my son. But I like want him to be a part at publishing it, but I want it to be by him. So I'm gonna just publish it as the co-author and have him as the author. I actually just graduated from Change Today, Change Tomorrow. This past weekend, it was on the news on WDRB. If you guys watch that, it's a black owned business or nonprofit that actually had a business class for other black businesses, and they gave, it was 14 of us who graduated this past weekend, and they gave us a grant to help go towards our black business. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I plan on using that grant to help my business. I have a for-profit business called Boss Moves Mentality LLC. So I plan to use my grant to help me with going to different tabling events, and just having more equipment, because I make T-shirts and everything, and just ordering more books. I like to sell my books myself instead of having Amazon sell them, because they take their own cut. So just ordering a bulk of my books so I can sell them on hand, and also getting my nonprofit up and running more. So that my nonprofit is focusing on foster care youth. I want to help them, like basically be the middle person to help them transition from foster care into adulthood, because there's not that much help that will help foster youth transition into adulthood. So I want to be that gateway for them, to help them learn how to cook and be equipped with all the life skills that they need to be an adult. So those are things that I'm looking forward to doing in the future.
Love that. So important. super important, the transition from adolescence into adulthood. I think everybody needs that. Whether you're in foster care or you're, with a permanent family, or you're in a residential placement facility, I think every single adolescent needs that. And I think there's a gap. We don't really have a lot of those opportunities and experiences or programs for young people. So incredible work. I'm super excited for you. You're welcome. You are so welcome. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share that you haven't already?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm super proud of you. I can't wait to get your books and get your signature in the book. And I'm sure a lot of our attendees they can't wait either. So and Ms. DeCoriana, is there anything else that we left out or that you would like to say?
No, just thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for being such inspirations, both of you. And looking forward to meeting you all in person. I know we're on virtual right now, but I'm looking forward to the face-to-face and seeing you all in some of the upcoming events over the summer. I know there'll be a lot of tabling events for you all to have your books sold, and I'm looking forward to that too. Well, we're going to move right along into our Q&A session. I'm sure the chat has been blowing up, so I'm going to take a look at that. And our panel discussion has been very insightful. Now it's time to just move on over to that. So thank you all for, let's see, what questions do we have? Got to expand my screen. Okay, let's see. Are there any questions? I think Miss Jamisa Jones mentioned that we have some questions. Let's see, any other questions? Just give y'all a few little moments. I know there's some questions out there. Okay, well, it looks like we don't have any questions yet, but we do have one. Dr. Karen Chandler. Hello, Dr. Chandler, one of my professors from U of L when I was an undergraduate. Love you and was inspired by you so much over the years as a writer and as a professor. So thank you so much. We have a question from Dr. Chandler. What writers or artists do you see as role models?
I think Audre Lorde. I think her name was Audre Lorde. Amanda, the girl that was at the inauguration, Amanda Gordon. She was, yeah, because like just seeing her was like it's good representation. Because I was like, oh my God, like she's presented her poems and she's a Black girl and she's just up there. And like when I first seen that, like it was just stars in my eyes. I was like, oh my God. I was like, it just made me so happy and proud to be who I am. Cause like I've been like, shamed for having Black features too. I've been bullied a lot and all that. But I just feel like I was like, oh, I was finally at peace because I was like, I'm seeing me in like good representation and all that. I was just so proud. But
absolutely, yes. I'm still blown away by her poetry and her work. And I love seeing young Black girls, us, in the forefront, representing, poetry, scholarship, just incredible work that we're doing, entrepreneurship. That's super important. And we have to be at that table. And she's super young to be at that table. And it's an example that we all, no matter what age you are, you can be in that space. It's all about who you are, your talent, being true to yourself, being genuine and showing up, and representing. So I love that. I agree. I love both of them. Audre Lorde, a feminist. I love her. What about you, Miss DeCoriana? What are some different individuals, writers or artists who you've seen as role models over the years? Oh, it's on mute.
I'm sorry. I would say Alicia Keys. I liked her books, and Jill Scott, like her poetry book. Those like really hit dear to me. That like Alicia Keys, like her poetry book, and she was telling her life experiences that she experienced at a young age. So I was just like, dang, well, if she can tell her story, then I can tell mine.
That's right. That's right. I love both of them as well. And then we have another question, and it's coming off the other side of the chat on my phone. So it looks like we do have a question. What are your career aspirations? Do you want to make a career as a published author?
Um, I I have a lot of goals. I want to have my own book publishing company too, though. But I want to
Yeah.
be a therapist. I just want to do a different variety of stuff. Um, but I think therapist is where like it's like a stable job. It's like what I'm going for. A lawyer too, because like I'm very good at like evidence and all that. But just those, yeah.
Awesome. I love that. What about you, Mr. Coriana?
Um, Yeah, I want to be like a motivational speaker, but like I guess like as a career, I want to be a licensed clinical social worker. That's why I'm in the Kent School of Social Work, and I feel like that my books would help my clients tremendously with
Mhm.
letting them know that they have a therapist that's doing or that going through what they're going through, so and they can overcome it by doing exactly what I'm doing, and one day do something big. So that's what I want to do. And like I don't like a lot of like I don't know, like my little brother, he's like, well, one day you're gonna be famous and all of that, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be famous. Like I want to be a author that's like you can invite to your cookout. Like, you can ask
I
questions,
love
and
that.
like I don't want the
Yeah.
fame. I want to be
Yes.
there for others and let them know that, someone is just like them and they can do it. So that's what I want to be,
I
that type
love.
of author. Like
Mhm. Yeah, you're not chasing the fame and the
yeah.
fortune. You're chasing the legacy that it brings, the purpose that comes with it, right? And
Yeah.
just living your life and happy doing that, as sharing your story. So I think that's the way that we all should be living. That's a testament to the way that we all should live is, don't let the money drive you. It's about what you love to do, what makes you happy, what you enjoy, and what you're designed to do, and you all are writers naturally. And there's no problem with being an author as that being your only profession. You know what I mean? You can do that. You definitely can. A lot of people make careers out of just being an author, and that's huge. Whether you have multiple income streams, revenue generating businesses, or other ways that you make money, a lot of times other people they can just make their living as an author, which is incredible either way. So I love the trajectories that you all are on as authors, as young authors, and how you all are thinking about moving forward in your journey as authors, and bringing other people along with you, and having a human, a humanitarian, a human experience to it, because a lot of times, when you read books by authors, you don't really have that human connection. And I love the fact that you said, I want to be the author who can come to the cookout, invite me. It adds more of the human experience to who you are, and you're not just behind a book, you're a person, and that's very important with making those connections and building relationships with people beyond just the words that are printed in your book, that you are yourself the embodiment of that book, and you are someone who is personable and can meet with other people and can build relationships. So incredible. Love it. Love it. We have another question on the chat by Miss Virginia. What advice do you have for your peers who want to write their story?
That's funny that was a question because a girl asked me that before, like when I was in school. I think it was
Yeah.
around last week. But just like know what you like. Be sure that you
Mm-hmm.
want to do what you want to do, and like just have patience with yourself too, because like certain things are not going to happen overnight too. So
That's true. That is true. It's a journey. It's a process.
right.
Yeah, and you have to be patient with it. Yeah, and enjoy it while you're along the journey.
Right.
And what about you, Mr. Coriana?
I would say the same thing. I would say, just make sure that you want to really share your story, um, and be patient with yourself. But I would say, do it. If that's something that you really want to do, then do it, because it may, you helping. I learned with me helping other people is therapy for me, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how I cope with
Yeah.
things that I'm going through. And so sometimes it may just take you to be an inspiration to others, to help you know that you got it and you're doing something, good in life, and you're, accomplishing your goals. It takes other people to tell me, like, dang, you're really inspiring to me, for me to feel good about myself sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would just say.
Oh yeah, you giving light, and light is coming right back to you. That's how it reflects.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's amazing that you all are using your work, your words, to just make such a huge impact on your generation and intergenerationally. You really are. So, well, it looks like those are the last questions. We have a lot of people saying, love having all these aspirations. So true. Great advice from both of you. We have your Amazon links, your book links are being added to the chat. So anyone who would like to purchase books, definitely please go online and go to Amazon and support our young authors. They are incredible. Let's see what else is excellent. Thank you all from Miss Reynolds. A lot of really great thank you, Cherish and Decoriana. A lot of congrats. Both of the books, all of the books are on our chat now. So please click on it, purchase a book today. So let's see where we are in the schedule. It is right at 12 o'clock. Looks like we're moving right along. Thank you again to Decoriana and Cherish. You all both are just amazing young women. Like I said, I can't wait to meet you all and to purchase your books and get signed
Thank,
copies. You're
thank you.
welcome. You are so welcome. We've had great questions from the chat. And I just want to say thank you all for watching and being a part of this wonderful experience. Thank you, Grandmama. Miss Cherish's grandmama. Thank you. Can't forget you over. Yes, ma'am. I know you're super proud of your granddaughter. She's amazing.
She's crying. She's
Oh
crying.
my gosh. Yeah, she's so happy. That's what grandmamas are supposed to do. Well, thank you all. We will now turn it back over to Miss Marian Vassar for some final updates and comments. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, this has been so amazing, just so amazing. I was expecting it to be good. I was not expecting to be blown away at this level, or maybe I was. So thanks to all of you who logged in today to hear from our special guest. Another huge thanks to our brilliant and inspiring speakers, Joy Priest, Cherish Wilson, and Coriana Garrett. I want to thank you for your the gift of vulnerability, authenticity, and transparency. So much of what you said really resonated with me. Coriana, as you can see, I got a healthy nose too. And as you were talking about being bullied, that was me in high school. Even though I was popular, people definitely bullied me. So I appreciate you opening up and sharing that. I'm sure you helped others as well. Also, another huge thanks to our moderators, Tatiana Ringstaff, one of my favorite people ever, and Miranda Massman. Thank you both for facilitating, moderating, and engaging the chat and those amazing questions as well. Another huge thanks to our amazing planning committee. Everybody worked so hard on this festival, and it was just great to see it come to full fruition. I'm full And I'm re-energized. That's why I can barely catch my breath. Hopefully you all enjoyed the experience as well. So what we're asking you all to do is please complete the online evaluation form and send it back to us no later, preferably, than March 25th. You may need to sit with this magic for a minute before you fill out that evaluation. So we're going to give you a little bit of time, but March 25th, if you can send it back by then, that would be great. To stay engaged with the Women's Center, we're asking you to check out the Women's History Month calendar for additional programs and events, and also the Women's Center website for updates. And I believe that'll all be dropped in the chat soon if it's not there already. And then finally, we have with us today the chair of the U of L's Women Alumni Council, Sonia Thompson, who will say just a few words about the council. Then we'll turn it back to Jamaica Jones, our program coordinator in the Women's Center, who will close us out for the day. Again, thank you all so very much for joining us. Sonia, on to you. Is Sonia with us? Okay. Well, I will do some.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was speaking without, I apologize. I was speaking without having my mic or video. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Marian, and thanks to the Women's Center for giving me the opportunity to say hello to everyone here. First of all, I want to say, wow, this really was a great event. We have some incredibly talented writers in the Ville. So excellent job, ladies. Like Marianne said, I'm the chair of the Women's Alumni Council at U of L. This council isn't a new story by any means, but we are writing a new chapter with 19 new council members. So we're very much looking forward to hosting our own in-person and virtual events, including a book club in the fall. And we hope that everyone here will be able to take part in that. Next slide, please. Now, this is our mission statement. I'm not going to read it, but the last line really says it all, that we would love to get to know other alumni, current and future students, and friends of the university. There are some links for how you can learn more and stay in contact with us. I'll be sure to paste those in the chat for everyone. And we hope to hear from you all and see you all at other amazing events like this in the future. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Sonia. As a fellow alum, I'm excited to see this going for everybody. And I know I got me a playlist going after attending. And this is one of my favorite events, and I love being able to be a part of it and providing a platform for these awesome artists to come and share their craft with everyone, and for fellow book lovers to have some more books to add to their growing collection if they have room on their bookshelf still. But I'm going to enable everyone's camera, so just give me one moment. Now, of course, you know, if you don't feel comfortable turning your camera on, we're not going to force you, but we would love for you to be a part of this historical moment of our 16th annual book festival. So give me one moment. All right, so you now should be able to turn on your cameras. And I will get our virtual space together, since we cannot be together. All right, so I'd like people to have a few moments. Right. And I'll take two, because I always know there's one person who may have their eyes closed or doing a weird face. So I'm trying to get everyone's best appearances. All right. You guys ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. So again, thank you all so much. We wrapped up a slightly bit earlier, but that gives you more time to go purchase the books and enjoy this beautiful weather that we have today if you're here in Louisville, Kentucky. And we hope to see you again next year. We're going to get ready and rocking and rolling for next year's 17th annual book festival. So enjoy the rest of your all's evening or afternoon, sorry. And enjoy the rest of your all's day. Thank you.